Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. President-elect Donald Trump has still not yet submitted a legally required ethics pledge stating he will avoid conflicts of interest. According to federal law, specifically the Presidential Transition Act, Donald Trump was supposed to submit the legal documents by October the 1st, but he missed that deadline. And the lingering hang-up, according to everybody involved, is that Trump is unwilling to divest his business interests or put assets in a blind trust while president, as the law requires. Max Stier, CEO of the Partnership for Public Service, is an expert on these issues and appeared on CBS.
The transition is fundamental to the safety of our country. It is the handoff of power, and at the point of handoff is when our enemies abroad and other risks are most prominent. So doing this right is really critical to, again, keeping us safe and, frankly, also to the ability of a new administration to fulfill its promises from the campaign trail.
And Max, how about what we are told is a reluctance of President-elect Trump to do anything about his business holdings this second time around?
Well, look, again, I can't look into the transition operation and know for sure. But as you say, it's been reported that this is the sticking point. The reality is that transition activity is still private activity, but it's fundamentally so close to governance that making sure that there's transparency about who's involved and how the process is run is fundamental. This question of conflicts of interest is really critical to make sure that the people who are in an administration are there looking out for the public good and not their private interests. And I think the same issue applies to the President of the United States.
Donald Trump's foot-dragging has prevented his transition team from participating in national security briefings and gaining access to government agencies to begin the process of taking control. The law, passed with bipartisan support, came in the wake of ethical concerns during the first Trump administration. Watchdog groups identified more than 3,400 conflicts of interest tied to Donald Trump during his first administration. This included holding political events and hosting foreign dignitaries at hotels and resorts he owned. It's not clear what, if anything, can be done to force Donald Trump to comply with the ethics law now or punish him if he does not, given that Donald Trump will control the Justice Department. So a federal criminal indictment will not happen. That leaves a presidential impeachment, which would be up to the Congress, which is controlled by Republicans. In other words, even though Donald Trump is already breaking the law, do not look for anything other than public scorn. And as we've seen with Donald Trump, he doesn't care about that. Still, it could make things awkward for some Republicans who continue to insist that the GOP opposes corruption. Several Senate Republicans are already miffed over several of Donald Trump's cabinet nominations, and it appears that Donald Trump's Attorney General pick, for example, does not have the Republican support to get confirmed. However, there are still some Trump rubber stamps in the U.S. Senate, including Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, and he thinks the Senate should have less responsibility to oversee nominations and that Trump should get every cabinet member he wants, no matter what kind of moral, ethical, or legal baggage the nominee may have.
I think the confirmation process has gotten completely out of control, way beyond what I think our founders ever envisioned. We have to confirm something like 1,200 positions in administration. I think elections matter. I think presidents ought to have the ability to staff their administrations. Now, again, we should be providing advice and consent on lifetime appointments and certainly the top administration officials, but this is completely out of control.
Still, even some Trump supporters in the Senate admit the transition has gotten off to a rocky start. A few Senate hawks have pointed out that Tulsi Gabbard, the pick for Director of National Intelligence, has acted like a Russian asset. And several countries are already saying they will not share intelligence with the Trump administration because of Gabbard. Matt Gaetz, the pick for Attorney General, has been investigated for sexual misconduct, and there is evidence he repeatedly paid for sex with underage girls. Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary nominee, has been accused of rape. Robert Kennedy Jr., Trump's pick for Health and Human Services, has admitted to drug abuse. Linda McMahon, the Trump nominee for Education Secretary, has no experience in education. Donald Trump has urged the Senate to approve all of his cabinet nominations through what's known as a recess appointment, if necessary. A recess appointment is a measure in the Constitution that allows for nominations to move forward if both the House and the Senate are formally in recess. But a few senators are declaring they are okay with recess appointments for lower-level government nominations, but not for cabinet members. Here's North Carolina's Tom Tillis.
Should Trump take recess appointments off the table?
That's another false narrative, folks. I hope President Trump does at least 33 recess appointments. You know why 33? Because Obama did 32. So if anybody thinks that recess appointments are something new and different, you need to kind of study just a couple of administrations back. I want President Trump to consider if it's possible to recess appoint a National Labor Relations Board member or a CFPB member or some of these hyper-partisan recess appointments that Obama did. Let's just best them by at least one, but not for a cabinet-level position. That should be absolutely off the table, and quite honestly, any serious candidate for a cabinet-level position, I would have to really wonder if they would want it or be willing to accept it under a recess appointment. These positions are too important and carry too much weight internationally to take a shortcut. However, I really do hope we get at least 33 recess appointments.
Putting the U.S. House and Senate in a formal recess is not as easy as it may sound. And there are already some Republicans in both chambers who say they will join Democrats in blocking a formal adjournment. As a result, some Trump transition team members are now talking about forcing Congress into a recess, even though such a move would be unconstitutional. But as we've seen with Donald Trump, adherence to the Constitution has never been a priority. Donald Trump simply wants to get his way with his nominees and with his business organization. Donald Trump doesn't seem to care about allegations of corruption or conflicts of interest. And now, even before Donald Trump takes office, those controversies are growing. By the way, even Donald Trump mouthpiece Fox News is having some issues with the Trump transition and cabinet picks.
The Wall Street Journal said bad choice. Senator Joni Ernst says he's got a lot of work to do. Senator Lisa Murkowski says not a serious candidate.
Fox host Brian Kilmeade then offered his own opinion.
I also, when Susie Wiles took the job, you heard she says one thing I'd said is I don't want to see any the clown car. I always thought Matt Gaetz was in the clown car.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.